Hello and welcome to Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom, the show where we talk about the extraordinary world of health through the lens of everyday folks like you and me. I'm Ethan Foster, your resident connoisseur of human quirks and questionable life choices.
And I'm Alara Sky, equally at home discussing quantum physics, comedic timing, and how to navigate the grocery aisle without self-combusting in confusion.
You do manage to wear many hats, some more outrageous than others, but your comedic jabs do bring an edge to what might otherwise be a bland conversation on food labels.
Bland? Me? Now that stings. Especially because today's topic is far from bland. It's the classic battle between dark chocolate and milk chocolate in the context of type 2 diabetes and metabolic health. Or as I like to call it, when bitter beats sweet, sometimes life is just like that.
Very poetic, Alara. In this episode, we'll explore why dark chocolate is lauded by Dr. Mercola and others for potentially lowering the risk of type 2 diabetes, and why milk chocolate may make us gain unwanted inches instead.
You sound like we're pitting them against each other in a boxing ring. In the dark corner, we have the heavyweight champion, 70% cacao or higher. In the sugary corner, the sweet but suspicious milk chocolate. Ding ding.
Let's start with some context. Type 2 diabetes is a chronic metabolic disorder where your blood sugar levels soar higher than my stress levels during tax season.
That's quite high. But yes, in type 2 diabetes, the body loses its ability to use insulin effectively, or doesn't produce enough. Then, chaos ensues in the bloodstream. Sugar accumulates, and it can wreak havoc on everything from your blood vessels to your sense of humor.
Not that the sense of humor is a scientifically recognized organ, but if it were, you'd be the reigning champion of keeping it healthy.
Thank you, Ethan. I strive for comedic homeostasis. We should note that type 2 diabetes has become a massive public health concern. Rates are climbing, and it's not just a problem in the US. It's worldwide. Sedentary lifestyles, diets overloaded with processed foods, and good old genetics all play a role.
So, there's the official backdrop. Now, enter chocolate, specifically dark chocolate. According to recent findings, dark chocolate consumption is linked to a 21% reduction in the risk of developing type 2 diabetes.
21%? That's quite a chunk of risk reduction. It's almost enough to make me think we should just swim in a chocolate fountain every morning.
But with your comedic grace, not with a snorkel, I hope. The interesting part is that the same benefit doesn't extend to milk chocolate, which is sad news for all the sweet tooth folks out there who think cocoa is cocoa, no matter the packaging.
Precisely. Milk chocolate has a reputation for creeping onto our waistlines. It's associated with weight gain, and that's not exactly great news if you're trying to avoid insulin resistance. Dark chocolate, on the other hand, is rich in polyphenol flavonoids. Very fancy words, meaning it has compounds that help with insulin sensitivity.
So that's the interesting sciencey bit, polyphenol flavonoids. The idea is they improve insulin sensitivity, which is basically the opposite problem in type 2 diabetes, where your cells become stubborn, refusing to let insulin do its job.
Right. Think of your cells like teenagers. Insulin is the parent telling them to open the door and let glucose in. But in type 2 diabetes, the teenager crosses their arms and says, "Nope, I do what I want." Eventually, the parent, your pancreas, goes hoarse from yelling and can't produce enough insulin anymore. Then, the sugar stands outside the door, piling up in your bloodstream, sulking.
That's possibly the most dramatic retelling of the insulin glucose story I've ever heard. But I like the analogy. Now, the science says that 5 or more servings of dark chocolate weekly lowers type 2 diabetes risk. Every additional serving per week is a 3% decrease in risk.
That's a neat equation. Though let's be realistic. If we're talking about servings, we're not saying you can devour half a pound of dark chocolate in one sitting and expect protective effects. It's portioned in a measured sense.
Yes, there's that. Also, the younger you are when you start incorporating dark chocolate, the better the potential benefits might be. It's like many healthy habits, starting early is usually ideal.
So does that mean we can't teach an old dog new chocolate tricks?
I think older dogs can still nibble on the dark stuff, but results may vary, especially if you're also inhaling a bag of greasy fries on the side. But let's not jump ahead. We also need to talk about milk chocolate's association with weight gain. That's how we got here in the first place.
Milk chocolate is basically sugar in a cunning disguise, topped off with some cocoa butter and a pinch of cocoa solids. The sugar and the extra calories can tip the scales in the wrong direction.
Let's delve into a bit more of the type 2 diabetes landscape. Nearly 10.5% of the adult population deals with this condition. In the US alone, over 38 million people have diabetes, and up to 95% of these cases are type 2. That's a big chunk.
Yes, and you'd think with that many people affected, we'd be more collectively motivated to curb sugar and processed junk. But life gets busy, and convenience often wins out. Hence the complication.
The costs, medical bills, disability, lost productivity are enormous. That's why prevention is key. Dr. Mercola points out that simple lifestyle changes, like incorporating dark chocolate, can be surprisingly effective in managing or even reversing type 2 diabetes if done right.
Absolutely. Then we come to the quality of life aspect. Heart attacks, strokes, neuropathy, kidney failure. Type 2 diabetes isn't messing around. It can seriously sabotage your day-to-day existence.
And your future comedic endeavors.
Exactly. So focusing on healthy eating patterns and ditching the processed stuff is not just a trendy approach. It's essential for overall well-being.
We can't ignore that lifestyle factors drive type 2 diabetes. Sedentary habits, poor diets, especially ones with high amounts of processed foods containing excessive linoleic acid. This might be the first time I'm addressing linoleic acid on air.
It's quite a mouthful, literally and figuratively. Linoleic acid, commonly found in seed oils, is an omega-6 fatty acid. It's not evil in the right amounts, but we consume it in monstrous quantities, leading some experts to call it a metabolic poison. It's linked to insulin resistance, messing with our mitochondria.
Mitochondria being the powerhouses of our cells, as we learned in 8th grade biology. If they don't function well, everything else starts to break down.
Precisely. So we get the 1-2 punch, a diet high in LA plus a lack of physical movement. Your body's like, come on folks, give me a break. Instead, we respond with more chips, more fast food, and more sugary drinks. Eventually, insulin resistance sets in.
A vicious cycle. Then we try to diagnose it with tests like fasting blood glucose and HbA1c, though sometimes those don't catch the early onset. By the time we see the problem, significant damage may have already occurred.
Exactly. That's why it's fascinating that dark chocolate can help with insulin sensitivity, provided we're not piling on more junk in the rest of our diet.
Now, let's talk about that one study featuring a massive group of 208 participants across 3 different cohort studies.
That's not just a study, that's a city's worth of participants.
Right, and none of them had type 2 diabetes, heart disease, or cancer at the start. What the researchers found was that dark chocolate consumption correlated with a significant risk reduction for type 2 diabetes. 5 or more servings a week came out to a 21% lower risk.
That's quite remarkable. And each additional serving per week gave another 3% decrease in risk, so it's cumulative.
Meanwhile, milk chocolate showed no such benefit and actually seemed to nudge up weight gain.
It's not exactly a squeaky clean bar. Dark chocolate's hero status partly comes from its higher cocoa and flavanol content, like epicatechin. These substances are the behind-the-scenes wizards for insulin sensitivity.
That study also found that younger people benefited more, so maybe we should be telling the next generation, skip the candy bars loaded with sugar and try nibbling on some intense 70% cacao if you want a treat.
Indeed. Start your kids on the bitter stuff early, and maybe they won't rebel and shift to milk chocolate later. Then again, kids are rebellious. They might just form an underground club at school dedicated to sugary snacks.
That would be the ultimate preteen rebellion, illegal milk chocolate smuggling at lunchtime. Let's shift gears to how cocoa polyphenols might influence weight management. The evidence from what Dr. Mercola and others say is a bit mixed, right?
Right. Some studies see a link where cocoa polyphenols can help manage obesity by revving up your metabolism or reducing fat accumulation. Others don't see a big effect. Could be that chocolate can't fix everything. Shocker, I know.
The form and dosage matter. Eating a square of dark chocolate with a high polyphenol content is different than gulping down a sugary hot cocoa from a vending machine. Those are basically different species.
Precisely. The beneficial compounds in cocoa are epicatechin and catechin. These can have antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects. But if your cocoa is drowned in sugar, milk, and various syrups, you're probably neutralizing those benefits.
It's like wearing noise-canceling headphones and then blasting polka music at full volume. Any positive effect is overshadowed. What about the concept that dark chocolate's polyphenols can improve metabolic profiles? Blood sugar, insulin resistance, cholesterol, that sort of thing.
Yes, there's research suggesting that. Better blood sugar control and less insulin resistance are excellent for people battling obesity or type 2 diabetes. The idea is that these polyphenols help your body handle glucose more efficiently, so less sugar accumulates in the bloodstream.
But we should note, there's a gap in studies that look at healthy obese individuals, people without comorbidities. Most research focuses on those who are obese and also have diabetes or heart disease.
Exactly. The interplay is more complicated if a person already has a health condition. We can't always isolate the effect of cocoa alone. That's why more research is needed to see how it works in a broader population.
Another important factor, we're seeing that some results might be due to reduced inflammation. Flavanols can reduce oxidative stress and inflammation, which are at the root of many chronic diseases.
So it's not just about weight. It's about preventing your cells from turning into a battleground of free radicals and inflammatory markers.
Let's get into another study. It found that polyphenol-rich dark chocolate lowered fasting blood sugar and blood pressure within just 2 weeks in overweight or obese folks.
2 weeks is surprisingly quick. That's basically enough time to watch a streaming series or recover from a minor cold. And you can see improvements in metabolic markers already?
Yes, that's quite optimistic. They tried 2 different doses, 500 milligram of polyphenols and 1,000 milligram. Interestingly, both showed similar benefits in terms of blood glucose and blood pressure, so bigger doses might not automatically give bigger benefits.
Some good news for those who don't want to splurge on the fancy chocolate with triple the cocoa. Although it's still worth going for quality because of potential contaminants or unwanted additives.
Right? The same study noted that total cholesterol levels didn't change much, nor did participants' body measurements shift significantly over 2 weeks. But that quick drop in blood sugar and blood pressure suggests that dark chocolate can be a handy intervention, especially if you need a nudge in the right metabolic direction.
Exactly. It's not a miracle worker. You still need a balanced diet, exercise, and a lifestyle that doesn't revolve around your couch. But it's a nice piece of the puzzle.
Let's summarize 4 key steps to harness dark chocolate's benefits, adapted from Dr. Mercola's approach, though we're presenting them in our comedic style.
I'm all ears. Let's go.
Step 1. Choose high-quality dark chocolate with at least 70% cacao and safe ingredients.
No skimping on the fine print. Avoid products with vegetable oils, soy lecithin, high fructose corn syrup, or bizarre artificial flavors. Also, keep an eye out for brands that test for heavy metals. No one wants a side of cadmium or lead with their sweet treat.
Indeed, I prefer my chocolate sans toxins, personally. Step 2. Incorporate dark chocolate into a carb-rich diet strategically. Dr. Mercola suggests 200 to 350 grams of targeted carbs daily, but that can vary based on your microbiome, activity level, and maybe your comedic level.
Possibly the comedic level helps metabolism. Science is still out on that one. But yes, the point is, dark chocolate should fit into an overall mindful eating pattern. You can't just eat chocolate bars alone and call it a day.
Step 3. Regular physical activity plus reducing linoleic acid intake. So move around and avoid seed oils that are loaded with LA. We want to cut inflammation and help insulin sensitivity.
Because guess what? Inflammation is the enemy that doesn't sleep. Excess LA fosters a pro-inflammatory state, which leads to insulin resistance, which leads to a meltdown in your metabolic system. Next thing you know, the pancreas is overwhelmed and you're in diabetic territory.
And your sense of humor is stuck in the gutter from the stress.
Precisely. So the takeaway is, skip the seed oils, do some daily walking, and let dark chocolate come in as a friendly ally.
Step 4. Monitor your metabolic health. The HOMA-IR test is a good measure of insulin resistance. A score under 1.0 is healthy. Above that signals some insulin resistance. That's the short version. No need to break out the calculators mid-podcast.
Yes, but if you do get tested, it's a solid way to see if your lifestyle changes are making a dent. Because otherwise, we're all just guessing. And if you are at 1.0 or below, your insulin sensitivity is probably in a good place. Hooray for that.
So, those are the 4 main steps. Overall, the message is, a piece of dark chocolate can be a legitimate part of a healthy lifestyle, especially for people concerned about type 2 diabetes, or just wanting to keep their metabolic health in check.
Let's not forget the emotional satisfaction that chocolate brings. A mindful bite here and there can certainly keep stress at bay.
Absolutely. Now, a question for you. Are you a daily chocolate consumer?
I am, in moderation. I keep a bar of 85% cacao in my pantry for those moments I need a quick mental boost or a reward for finishing a long day of comedic endeavors. It's satisfying, and I don't binge. That's the key.
Good approach. I sometimes keep a bar in the fridge. The only danger is when friends come over and see it, then it vanishes faster than coffee on a Monday morning.
Might want to put a big label on it. Don't touch, this is for my metabolic experiment.
I can see that scaring a few people off. Yes. We should also highlight that while dark chocolate can offer benefits, it doesn't excuse other unhealthy choices. You can't just eat a kale salad once a month, or nibble dark chocolate daily, and then call it a perfect lifestyle.
Right, and it's not a get-out-of-exercise free card. Movement is non-negotiable if you want stable blood sugar and strong cardiovascular health.
Also, the best results seem to come when you reduce your overall sugar intake. Dark chocolate is typically lower in sugar than milk chocolate, which helps. But if you buy the super sweet dark chocolate with lots of additives, you might undo the benefit.
Or if you eat an entire block in one sitting. Let's not forget portion control. The study results talk about servings, not mountains. We can't be nibbling away like we've never seen food before.
Right? I love that these studies underscore the synergy between diet and lifestyle. You add in beneficial foods, you remove the harmful stuff, you move your body more, and you keep track of your health markers. Over time, it all adds up.
And your risk of type 2 diabetes drops. Not because you found a magic pill, but because you laid the groundwork for stable blood sugar regulation. Dark chocolate just happens to be a fun ally.
Let's explore a bit about how exactly these polyphenols work. Flavonols like epicatechin are believed to improve endothelial function, which means better blood flow, healthier arteries, lower blood pressure. That's good news for the old ticker.
And a better blood flow means your muscle cells and organs get nutrients more efficiently, including glucose. Your body becomes more receptive to insulin's instructions.
And that means your pancreas can take a chill pill. It doesn't have to scream, produce more insulin, more. Instead, it can produce just enough and keep your blood sugar in a nice, happy range.
Precisely. Also, when you reduce inflammation, your body is in a calmer state. Chronic inflammation is like an alarm that never stops ringing, wearing down your cells. Turn that off, and you let your metabolic system function more smoothly.
Now, about cocoa polyphenols and weight management. We said the results can be mixed. Some folks might see a bit of help in shedding pounds or preventing weight gain. Others may not see a difference.
There's individual variation. Genetics, gut microbiome, daily activity, how you manage stress. They all affect how your body processes cocoa's compounds.
True. If you're chronically stressed, your cortisol levels go up. You might store more fat, especially around the midsection. So that piece of dark chocolate is fighting an uphill battle if the rest of your life is chaos.
So the moral, a little bit of discipline, a dash of dark chocolate. That formula has potential. But if you're out there expecting a bar of 70% cacao to solve a decade's worth of questionable eating habits, you might be disappointed.
Let's talk a bit more about the importance of choosing a high-quality brand. Not all dark chocolates are created equal. Some are loaded with sugar, dairy, emulsifiers, or even questionable metals.
Yes, it's bizarre but true. Traces of heavy metals like cadmium or lead can appear in some cocoa products. The key is to look for reputable brands that do testing and are transparent about it.
So reading labels is key. We want to avoid those suspicious ingredients that you can't pronounce. If it reads like a chemistry set, maybe skip that brand.
Precisely. The simpler the better. Cocoa mass, cocoa butter, maybe a little sugar, maybe some vanilla. That's typically how real dark chocolate is made. Also, skip the soy lecithin if you can find a brand that does without.
I'm partial to the ones that have no more than 3 or 4 ingredients. I don't trust it when a chocolate bar has a paragraph of text on the wrapper.
A paragraph on the wrapper is usually a sign you should run in the opposite direction.
Let's pivot to a fun question. Suppose we incorporate dark chocolate into a meal plan. How do you see it working day to day?
Let's imagine a scenario. Breakfast is a balanced affair, maybe eggs, some avocado, a piece of fruit, a small portion of oatmeal if you want. Lunch could be a salad with quality protein. Then dinner might be some lean meat or fish, plus veggies, and maybe a small carbohydrate side. You slip in a square or 2 of dark chocolate as dessert once a day.
That sounds fairly balanced. You're not drowning in sugar, you're not letting your entire day revolve around sweet cravings, and you're possibly reaping those polyphenol benefits.
Exactly. I'd also throw in the recommendation to walk, do yoga, or lift something heavier than your phone. It all ties together.
That's a good plan. Minimal seed oils, minimal processed junk, moderate healthy carbs, and a dash of dark chocolate. That's a scenario we can get behind.
It's not rocket science, but it works better than ignoring your health until you face a crisis.
Now, if we talk about chocolate, we have to mention cravings. Some folks say, once I start, I can't stop. What do you think about that?
It's a real phenomenon. But in my experience, truly high cacao dark chocolate is self-limiting for many people. It's bitter enough that you'll often be satisfied after a square or 2.
That's true. Milk chocolate, on the other hand, can be addictive. It's so sweet and creamy that you might keep going until you're rummaging through the wrapper for crumbs.
Precisely. Dark chocolate's intensity can help you practice mindful eating. You savor it slowly. You're not gobbling it like it's cotton candy at a carnival.
We should circle back to the big picture of type 2 diabetes prevention. Dr. Mercola's angle is that small changes, like adding dark chocolate and cutting LA, can have a profound ripple effect. It's not about an overhaul you can't maintain, it's about feasible tweaks.
And from those feasible tweaks, you might see improvements in insulin sensitivity, inflammation, and overall metabolic markers. The payoff can be bigger than we realize initially.
Absolutely. The message is that type 2 diabetes doesn't have to be a life sentence of ill health. Many can manage or reverse it with the right approach. And we're not just talking about removing negatives, we're adding positives, such as nutrient-dense foods and beneficial treats like dark chocolate.
Indeed. And that's more encouraging than a typical thou shalt not approach. Telling people they can't have sweets at all is depressing, but telling them they can incorporate small amounts of a healthier chocolate is more inviting.
We've covered the big points: how dark chocolate supports insulin sensitivity, how milk chocolate can derail weight management, the role of polyphenols in metabolic health, the importance of a balanced diet and exercise, and ways to pick good quality chocolate.
Yes, we've come full circle. Maybe now we should do a final comedic summary for those who tuned out halfway?
Excellent idea. Go for it.
In short, folks, if you're trying to keep your blood sugar in line, choose a moody, bitter bar of at least 70% cacao instead of the sweet, milk-laden kind. You'll get extra flavonols, your body will thank you, and your taste buds might eventually adapt. Pair that with an actual attempt at moving your limbs regularly and avoiding those sneaky seed oils. Your insulin might start speaking kindly to your cells again. End of comedic summary.
That was succinct and sassy. Perfect. As we near the end of our show, I'd like to highlight that cellular wisdom isn't just about quick fixes. It's about understanding how every choice, what you eat, how you move, what you do for stress management, affects the health of your cells.
Yes, your body is a vast community of cells. Each one has a job. They're all counting on you not to sabotage them with daily sugar bombings or a crippling lack of nutrients.
So maybe it's not that complicated. Treat your cells well, and they'll treat you well in return. Dark chocolate is just one small but mighty piece of that puzzle.
Couldn't have said it better. Although I'd add a comedic flourish, if your cells could talk, they'd probably say, "Give us cocoa, not chaos."
That might be my new motto. Give us cocoa, not chaos. All right, dear listeners, that wraps up this episode of Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom. Hopefully, we've clarified why dark chocolate might be your new best friend, or at least a friend with benefits, for type 2 diabetes prevention.
Yes, and if you decide to incorporate a little square of dark chocolate, remember, it's part of a broader lifestyle puzzle. Don't eat an entire bar while lying on the couch scrolling through cat videos. Actually, maybe watch the cat videos while strolling on a treadmill. Then nibble some dark chocolate. Perfect synergy.
You heard it from Alara. Chocolate plus cat videos plus treadmill equals metabolic victory. Well, partial victory. And a good sense of humor, always.
That last part is crucial. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll be back next time with more insights, more comedic banter, and more ways to keep those cells dancing to a healthy tune, without any stage directions or disclaimers.
Indeed. Stay curious, stay healthy, and remember, a bit of bitter is often better. Until next time, I'm Ethan Foster.
And I'm Alara Sky, signing off with a piece of dark chocolate in hand. Take care, everyone.